All right. Hey, thanks for jumping on our Modern Merchant podcast. I'm your host, Austin. With me, as always, I have Travis Merrier, CEO of Flexpoint. And in today's episode, we have a very special guest. It is the general manager, Jim, at ShipEngine. Jim, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We always love bringing on, companies that either we work with or we partner with, get some insight, in e-commerce, software, APIs, things like that. And, you guys as being ShipEngine, a part of the Octane portfolio, you guys hear the likes of ShipStation, ShipWorks, Shipping Easy, ShipEngine we work with pretty well, and super excited to have you on. And really just to kick us off, give us a quick little overview of ShipEngine and what you currently do with the company.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Austin. So I'm the general manager for ShipEngine. So overall, I'm responsible for the overall, business and growing that business. So I spent a lot of time talking to, our customers on what they need and where they're seeing the market and how ShipEngine can add value to what they're trying to do from a shipping perspective. Ultimately, at its core, ShipEngine is an API first multi-carrier shipping solution. So what that means is we go out and integrate to all the shipping carriers around the world. We have about 80 of them now that we then normalize to be able to provide a more seamless integration for our partners to leverage. We predominantly focus on working with ERP solutions, warehouse management solutions, or order management solutions, e-commerce platforms, POS solutions, but then also high-end or more customized solutions required for merchants themselves. So we work with a high number of merchants that are looking for a customized workflow where our API solution would be a better fit than say ShipStation, ShipWorks, or Shipping Easy.
Gotcha. And how did you get started with the company?
It actually goes back a number of years. So I moved to Austin, Texas, which is where ShipStation and the rest of the brands are headquartered. Moved here about 8 years ago, and just part of my networking to get embedded into the business scene here, connected with the folks at ShipStation, and it was about the time that they were in the process of creating what is now ShipEngine. Ultimately, what ShipEngine was spun out of ShipStation as an API product, is how it was really started, and had the opportunity to meet the folks at ShipStation as they were going through that process. And based off of what I did previously, there was some good alignment and good discussions about lesson learned in what ShipStation was trying to do with their API product. And over the course of a few years, when the opportunity came up that they were looking to actually turn it into a standalone business, I got the call to see if I was interested in making the move to lead this business.
Gotcha. And Travis, you had a good question starting out here, and I think this kind of segues nice in regards to the background. You kind of give us a quick little background, but the background of ShipEngine and how that was launched off of ShipStation. So take us back to that moment, at least from what you know. How did that all work? And I don't know if Travis, you have a specific question on that front.
Yeah, just specifically, I guess, Jim, I'd love to be and I know the wheels were already in motion when you joined, but just anything that you've learned just being there, flying the wall, like, was it, hey, this is a great idea, we should spin this off? The team, was there negotiations on who's going to be on the ShipEngine team? I'm just curious on any insight there that you have, because it's always interesting. We've had Inventory Source as a brand, and we've kind of spun off Flexpoint as our upmarket brand. So we've kind of gone through a similar transition. Would love to learn more about how that went.
Yeah. So originally, frankly, it was, we started seeing customers, and again, this predates me, but there was customers on ShipStation that were bumping up against the headroom of the capabilities within ShipStation's native workflow. There wasn't a lot of flexibility that you had in terms of the feature set and deeply integrating that capability. They had built out some APIs, but not to the point of to really go after, again, those customers that were doing excess of 10,000 shipments a month, et cetera. And so they did spin off a team to focus on really looking at how do we more or less build a facade, an API facade around ShipStation to extend its capabilities to allow for customers to interact with it from an API perspective. And but through that process, really what then started to come out was, hey, we should start modernizing the technology that was built on ShipStation and start to build out microservices and really start to leverage from that perspective, as well as it was. And so it was really started as an augmentation to ShipStation. But as we started getting into the development and the conversation started to flow, again, as I noted earlier, we saw this as an opportunity to plug our shipping capabilities into the ERP systems, into warehouse management systems, into the commerce, natively into these commerce platforms and the like. And so it was at that stage that we decided, hey, we're going to break this off and actually have a clean break between the two with its own P&L, with its own sales leadership, its own engineering and product organizations, its own support staff and the like. It really then diverged from there. And that really, that started happening around 2018 or so, is when that break really started to happen. And there was a dedicated sales organization to going after and providing a shipping solution predominantly to platforms. And then at that point, to customers that were outgrowing ShipStation or needed to augment what they were doing on ShipStation. And since then, now we obviously go and we've got our own pipeline independent of those customers that are also looking for ShipStation workflow type product.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm curious. I'd love to kind of double click into the whole building out the sales org and really switching. I mean, it's a very different sales motion, right? I'm assuming you guys sell, would you say developers is your primary persona you're going after with ShipEngine, where ShipStation, it's the merchant, right? So I'm curious how that, really just in general, selling to developers, building out your go-to-market for ShipEngine and building that sales team. Love to know more about that progression in the last 3 years.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So obviously, again, leveraging just ShipStation, but even ShipStation and Shipping Easy, the merchant, all of our products, frankly, the merchant is still at the center of our universe, still trying to serve the merchants, even though in our case for ShipEngine, we predominantly are partnering and offering our capabilities to platforms. It's still our platform is in service of then their merchants as we look at that. So for the first couple of years, it was really building out an organization where we were very, very developer focused. We still are obviously very developer focused in developing a whole strategy around how to speak to developers. We brought in a leader of a developer experience to really sort of drive how we should be building the products, building our APIs, and speaking to the developer community. And so it was a lot of just target messaging to the specific developers. Of course, what we've learned is developers predominantly have become the influencer over decision makers, and those aren't necessarily the same people. And so we still spend a lot of time talking to the developers, influencing the developers, trying to get the developers to leverage and use our capabilities, and then at that point, then start talking to the business users, the merchants, whichever the decision maker is, the business owner on that side, and what value then ShipEngine can bring to the business side, not just to the developer side.
Certainly. And just, that bottoms up approach, right? Where it's, you get them as your champion, you get them in, kind of provide them the materials, enable them really to help kind of transfer that information and almost pitch to the decision maker for you in a lot of cases, right? And make it easy.
That's exactly right. And so that's why even it all rolls down even into our pricing model. So when we first launched, it was entirely a pay-as-you-go plan, where you only pay for that specific usage. And that's still a predominant use case for us is customers, developers signing up, getting their API key and start using the product. And it's fractions of pennies to, start creating labels or tracking, et cetera, in terms of whatever their shipping needs are. And then, of course, we've got platform economics that go along with that price comes down. And so that's then where the enterprise sales comes into play to say, all right, we're seeing that you're doing, more than 10,000 shipments a month. You're doing 100,000 shipments a month. You're doing 1 million shipments a week, those types of things. All right, well, let's lay out, a committed use type plan that will then obviously reduce their overall shipping costs.
Yeah. I could definitely see that in the model for sure. I'm curious, would you say that, ShipEngine is definitely, there's no doubt about it. All of the Shipping Easy, ShipStation, everyone's kind of benefited from this direct to consumer movement, and really just ultimately more parcel than freight happening, right? I mean, that's kind of the wave that we're running. A lot of us are running where there's more people are equipped to ship out parcel. There's 3PLs popping up, all of that direct to consumer, drop shipping. Do you guys, is freight, if someone's shipping freight, a good portion of what they're doing, and they also might be doing parcel or looking to get into parcel, how do they look at ShipEngine? Does ShipEngine benefit someone that's shipping primarily freight or not so much?
Yeah. So again, your point is exactly right. Obviously the volume that's running through any of the Octane products, again, which includes ShipEngine, ShipStation, Shipping Easy, ShipWorks, is predominantly going to be related to parcel shipments. Which in very general terms, right, is going to be something that's less than 50 pounds, et cetera, right? You guys might have your own definition of that, but that's the oversimplified version of that, right? So anything that's coming to your house from Amazon, which we all know and love. And so that is the predominant use case for us. We did actually roll out just this year an LTL offering as well. So now we have 27 LTL carriers as part of our portfolio. The primary driver for us is like you said, it's still augmenting their parcel. And so look at companies, merchants that are auto parts as an example, right? So most of their products will fit inside of a parcel, but they're also then sending engines, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do we handle that? And the workflow for those customers was they were going off and, directly integrating or just directly working with a specific LTL carrier as an example. So we've seen now a shift in that's still the predominant influx of customers that are looking for ShipEngine is parcel plus some portion of their products is LTL. But we expect over time that we'll see a healthy balance of more customers looking at LTL as part of our solution. So one of the things that we end up talking about internally is around how do we support beyond parcel? And obviously LTL would certainly fit into that. But even just in general, one of the things we've talked about even recently, to your point about, sort of balancing the supply chain, right? That more and more warehouses and 3PLs, et cetera, are supporting that direct to consumer model instead of through distribution, inbound inventory and the like. But even just recently, you've seen obviously the shipping delays at all these ocean ports, right? Or seaports. Yeah. And it's sort of this balance that needs to happen of that is still a good strategy for a portion of your products, right? But doing things like cross-border fulfillment and air shipments and just that straight D2C type of shipment, it may cost more, right? It's obviously potentially more economical to do ocean, but there's also the avenue of customers are still willing to potentially pay more for shipping if they know they can get it this week or tomorrow or the next day, rather than some of those products that come in 3 weeks from now or whatever it happens to be.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. And so I was interesting. I promise I wasn't just throwing a softball there. I didn't know you guys had an LTL service that you just rolled out. I was just generally, curious, but it kind of goes into my next question of market share. So you guys are ShipStation, one of the most well-known names out there. So you're getting a lot of leads, like picking off the top tier or the more flexible needs customers there. So you've probably got a good bout of inbound flow there. ShipEngine in general has been establishing a brand pretty well alongside. So you guys done a good job go to market there. It sounds like you've tapped into the developer community with your leader of development experience and things like that. But just in general, how do you guys look at, as everyone is thinking about, how do you grow market share? How do you drive revenue? Already having a pretty good brand and exposure in the market that you're in. I heard LTL is one thing you're doing. You're expanding the product there, but like anything else on the roadmap on how you guys are looking to drive revenue in the coming year or two?
Sure. Yeah. So again, at the center of our capabilities is, again, we're a multi-carrier shipping solution. So continuing to fill out our carrier portfolio is still going to be paramount to what we're doing. And one aspect of that is taking that global. So we've recently added Australia, about a half a dozen or more carriers in Australia, the same in New Zealand. We continue to add more in Canada, Germany, France, Mexico, we just rolled out as well. So part of our strategy is going to be on expanding our capabilities in two ways globally. One is, how do we serve the merchants selling to their customers in their own country? So Australian merchants selling to Australians, right? Mm-hmm. Second piece then is selling cross-border. And so we've seen, obviously there's a fair amount of companies selling in, and I'll continue to use the South Pacific and Southeast Asia as my example here. But obviously a lot of products being sent out of Singapore, out of Australia, into that region. And so being able to do two things. One is have the carrier network to go outside and ship that internationally, wherever you are domestically. And then the reverse, right, is what happens if there's an issue with that product? How do we make sure that we've got the ability for returns coming from those countries? So you start getting into not just having Australian carriers, but where are those shipments going outside of Australia? And do we have those carriers, predominantly the postal agencies, because that's likely going to be your lowest cost in getting those back. So global is a huge portion of what we're looking at doing there. Another avenue for us is around more sophistication around shipping optimization. So we've got this huge network. One of the benefits from using a company like ShipEngine is you could start to do rate comparisons, right, against all of those carriers to find the lowest option for that, right? So many of these carriers have, again, things like two-day shipping, guaranteed shipping. Well, when you have a 2-day guaranteed shipping, well, rate's going to vary depending on where you're shipping it from and where you're shipping it to. Right. So we're starting to build in additional algorithms to not only just help them select that option, to be able to provide what's the cheapest, what's the fastest, what's the greenest, right? Also then building in some levels of predictiveness based off of actuals, right? So again, get into economy shipping that may have some variability to that. And you can look and say, well, 96% of the time, the economy shipping is still getting there delivered by 2 days. So let's go ahead and make the recommendation that they should be using these things. So building in a lot more of that shipping optimization type capabilities to really, again, sort of provide the merchants with ways to lower their cost, at the same time increase the customer choice that's available. Because of course, even on today, we've only been talking about what's right for the merchant, right? What's right for the customer is the second piece of this, right? Where there's a general sort of consensus that we all want fast and free. Well, shipping, as you know, is far from free for the merchants. And so how do you lower that cost and still be able to provide free? But even in general, like there's a lot of customers that they don't necessarily need fast and free, right? It's, give me a free option, give me fast. And then the question is, how fast is fast, right? And what are the options that we need to provide on that standpoint?
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think the main value prop that I've always perceived as a customer, honestly, we're a customer, Flexpoint is, was that normalization, right? That was like value prop number one, normalizing the API, one central API. There's got UPS, FedEx, DHL, anything else where we're using USPS, obviously. But we did leverage I would assume one of the first algorithms that you guys kind of rolled out in the API, which is that rate shopping, the package dimensions and that side of things. So, I think it sounds like adding more of those and you leveraging the data that you guys have and the predictive and really just understanding, the flow in general to be able to write these algorithms that provide more value than just the normalization. Sounds like I love to hear that as a customer and a great way to grow the product. One more before I turn it over to Austin. Just curious because we were going through something similar, and you mentioned international, which I assumed would probably be one of the things you guys were doing. Just curious how tough that's been, or any kind of new challenges, right? I mean, the idea is you got another carrier, they ship stuff, and you just plug them in like you plugged in the rest. I'm wondering if there's any specific examples. I mean, we ran into this with a recent integration that we were evaluating with QuickBooks and the GST tax, the Goods and Services tax in Australia. And the fact that we had to completely, look at it a whole different way than our current integration because of that tax in Australia. I'm curious if you run into any similar issues that you could just bring out for the merchants listening, the developers listening, that you might see when you go international like that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. There are a handful of things. Again, we sort of have to break it into those two categories of, are you attempting cross-border? Because there's a whole level of more complexity that comes from a merchant doing those activities, right? Things like estimated duties and taxes. Are your products, do they have the right harmonized codes, right, to estimate those duties and taxes? Do you want to offer to your customers duties paid up front and showing them what those landed costs are, right? There's a lot of scenarios that happen when a merchant says, well, I'm just going to fulfill my orders from my warehouse in the US or from the Netherlands or from wherever, Singapore, right? Without necessarily contemplating, do we have all that and what experience is it for the end customer? Because one of the things that we've seen in the past is customers will sign up. Yep, I'm going to do international shipping. Well, they don't either they don't tell the customer that there's landed costs and duties and taxes, right? And they don't tell them up front. And so when the product shows up at the door, they're like, hey, you just bought this $1,000 laptop or €1,000 laptop, and you owe us another €100 for the duties and taxes, right? And then what happens? Either the customer pays it or they refuse. Now you have additional expenses of a refusal coming back to you, et cetera. So there's another element around what the experience is for the merchants when doing cross-border. And then ultimately for the merchants in trying to sell to customers in their own region. Obviously having a better understanding of the overall, again, consumer expectation, right? There's places in the world. In Europe is one example where PUDO points, access points, out-of-home delivery, lockers, right? Those type of things become more prevalent than they do here, especially in high density, high urban locations where you might be in an apartment or you might be in some type of scenario like that where deliveries, you can't have them delivered to your home for a variety of reasons. There's other places like in Japan where scheduled deliveries is more prevalent. So which carriers support that and what's the user flow within your customer experience that you have to accommodate for? Yeah. So again, some of that's just the implications of what the customer expectations are and the customer impact on making that purchase even up front, regardless of what's happening with the carrier integration. But we've seen a number of in particular, the out-of-home delivery is one thing that's just another dimension that needs to be applied when integrating additional carriers outside the US.
Yeah, that lockers part is interesting. I've seen some of them start to pop up here, but it's interesting to know that that's more popular over there. I mean, it's funny. The second you go international, it's just one little thing, but it flips everything on its head and it adds a ton of complexity. So Pretty cool insights there.
Yeah. So what we've ended up doing is obviously then part of when we say we've got an expansion strategy to go to these different countries is we need to find somebody on the ground in that region that really has their pulse on what's happening for, again, predominantly for the consumer expectations, number one. Then number two is who can help manage the relationships with each of those carriers to bring them on board. And obviously that's the second half of what we do is obviously we talk to the carriers about, hey, you should be part of our network. While we're going to predominantly do the work and integrate to them, right? We still want a relationship with them to onboard them into ShipEngine or onto ShipEngine.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of downstream effects. We see that in software, right? You think you see it, and then there's tip of the iceberg, and then everything underneath it. One thing that I wanted to hit on, because I work with ShipStation a lot from a partner's perspective, and we recently saw ShipEngine Connect was like a new release that you guys were able to do. And I guess this question might be kind of twofold in the sense of, if I'm a user, if I'm a merchant, right, and I don't have a development team and I get on ShipStation, ShipWorks, Shipping Easy, I know you and I talked that there's kind of different customers per different software in the Octane portfolio. If I'm on at least one of those softwares, am I able to do almost a lot of stuff that you guys provide? Like, do you guys expose that to those different softwares? And then I guess at the same time, is that where ShipEngine Connect comes from? Because I know ShipEngine Connect was a new way of connecting into all of those softwares from like a partner's perspective, from a shipping carrier perspective, and things like that.
Yeah, so there's two parts to that answer. And the first is one of the things that we've done is we've evolved ShipEngine is really, again, as I mentioned before, is how do we modernize a lot of the things we're doing as we brought those brands together into the portfolio. We've evolved ShipEngine to really be the microservices platform that powers a lot of the capabilities that are inside of ShipStation Easy and Works. Predominantly, first and foremost, is the carrier integrations, order sources, marketplaces, 3PLs, and the like that are all wedded in there. And so about a little over a year ago, we built out ShipEngine Connect. And ShipEngine Connect is our integration platform. So that's what speaks to all of the different services that we want to be able to normalize and offer to our merchants and platforms. So ShipEngine Connect is where all of those 80 plus carrier integrations I mentioned, the 150 order sources that we have integrated into the platform, the 30 or so 3PLs that we have in the platform, et cetera. So all of those get funneled into to ShipEngine Connect. And you can think of that as almost like an app marketplace, where it was how does the Octane portfolio effectively be able to manage all of those integrations? So we built out a centralized place for us to do that. But the other part that's done is it allows us to extend that capabilities and make it self-service for any of those types of vendors to leverage ShipEngine Connect. And so we have carriers that are doing self-integrating to our platform because they do want access to our merchant base. We do have order sources that want to take over their own integration and elevate its capabilities to provide more value, again, downstream into our workflow products like ShipStation. So it's our integration platform. And the intent is one integration gets you access to all of the products: ShipStation, ShipEngine, ShipWorks, Shipping Easy, as part of that. Now it's still up to my peers at the GM level and working with our product organization to decide whether or not we're going to surface all of those carriers. So as an example, we discussed LTL earlier. LTL is likely not a great fit for Shipping Easy type customers. Shipping Easy, its intent is to be the more casual shippers in general. Its ideal customer profile is more of the casual shipper doing 50 orders a month, in that ballpark, right? Whereas ShipStation is going to be north of that. ShipEngine is going to be in the tens of thousands typically. ShipWorks is in that kind of ballpark as well. So LTL will, with that one integration that we did with LTL, it'll likely be surfaced in ShipStation as well as ShipWorks through that single integration through ShipEngine Connect.
So Jim, just to make sense, I just real quick, just so I'm understanding you correctly. So we have an integration that we built a couple years ago with ShipStation. We also have integration with Shipping Easy. We have a different integration with ShipEngine that does different things, but for our ShipStation and Shipping Easy integrations, it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, and just clarify if I'm not, that eventually we would probably just want to reintegrate with this new ShipEngine Connect, and then that will allow us for a more long-term normalized integration, and we could potentially very easily add ShipWorks to that. Is that what I'm hearing?
You got it. That's exactly
right.
Yeah. So that's so if that hasn't already been done, that's likely in the works somewhere. It might even be transparent to you depending on how that integration was built, right? And so you're providing services to our merchants, and at the same time, you're a customer of ShipEngine, and you're looking at the APIs on that side as well. So you have the inbound APIs connected to offer services to all of our platforms, and you also then are leveraging the APIs and taking advantage of all those carriers and embedding that into your capabilities.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. It's just kind of cool seeing it. We're in the world of just downloading apps, right? Whether I'm on Shopify, I'm downloading apps, or if I'm just downloading social media apps, and it's you guys being as a marketplace for APIs and just being able to integrate all of these different softwares is a game changer in the sense of, I feel like a lot of people are going to start doing more of that. And I'm sure there are some, but that's a very interesting model. Wanted to bring that up. I know Brooke at the ShipStation team sent me over ShipEngine Connect, and I was kind of like, well, we integrate here, and then we integrate here, and we integrate there, and it's a great way of standardizing that. That's about all the questions that I have on my side. Travis, anything on your end?
No, I think we touched on a lot of it. I think the one there might be something in there. I'm really curious on, you've been with ShipEngine now for 2 years, just under, Jim. And it sounds like it's really just kind of growing outside of the ShipStation and really splitting off right when you were getting there, right before you're getting there. So it's almost like its own little startup in here, and you've gone to market in your own way. I'm just curious, what kind of campaigns have you guys ran that you're like, wow, that one really worked, and that got us in front of the customers we were looking for? Anything that you can share there? Anything that you can share of like, you thought it was this great idea, you spent months on this campaign, and it really kind of fell flat? Always interested, as we're both in the go-to-market world, Austin and myself, and launching Flex and Flxpoint and things like that. So anything you can share there is always really insightful.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back to the point we were talking about in terms of speaking to the developer community, and one of the things that and if there are any developers listening, they'll probably curse me, but in general, I'll take it back. I was going to say that they're lazy. But I'm going to take it back.
We're all lazy when it comes down to it, right?
We are all looking for efficiencies. We would all rather edit than create. And so one of the things that we've seen good success at is, of course, we have our API suite that's available. I think one of the values that we bring and differentiate is great documentation, great customer support, live chat support, and the like. But ultimately, what moves the needle for us is actually those efficiency tools, right? It's going to build the SDKs. It's building out elements. It's building out other things that allow for developers to more quickly onboard to our capabilities. But even taking a step further, so that's one piece. And that doesn't get into the campaigns that you were talking about. But then what it is how do you go where the developers are going to look, right? If you were to ask a developer, when's the last time you worked with an API directly, right? Or how do you get started? The first thing they're going to do is say, I'm going to go to Stack Overflow. I'm going to go somewhere else and see who else has created something that's available. So as we have been building out new native integrations to things like Zapier, or other no-code, low-code platforms, and putting out things in GitHub and putting things out there that actually extend our reach, that allow for those merchants when they are doing a search on whatever developer platform they're using, that we're showing up in those contexts. So that's how we're onboarding a significant number of customers at that pay-go rate, right? And then we can start to engage with them to then say, well, why are you using us, right? And then ramping up there to then get in front of that developer, or the ultimately the business owner that's writing the check, usually for our capabilities. We have tried other things, things like Quora and Facebook and LinkedIn and the typical kind of channels. Now, obviously you can do some great things with segmenting the specific business users and business owners. But our highest ROI is when we're actually in and providing the tools available to those developers to start leveraging us as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense, right? They're usually online looking to accomplish a job. You guys give them the tools to get up and get going. It's shared easily with their other developer friends and coworkers. This is something that we didn't really prep you for, and I apologize if it's a curveball, but you just kind of saying it made me think of it. Open sourcing. Have you guys ever talked about it? Is there thoughts about it, certain pieces of it? Because you talk about being out there and adding value to developer community. I'm just curious, what is transcribed in the walls of ShipEngine about open sourcing?
Yeah, I mean, there's the only thing that we've done is put the stuff out in GitHub. Or orchestrating our APIs together. So if you wanted to go build a simple label gen tool for, I don't know, one example that comes to mind with all the kids that went back to school, the number of my friends that are now having college age kids going off to school is they're not driving, they're flying to their college, and now they want to send boxes of stuff to their kids at these universities. Yeah. Well, what's the best, most economical way to do that, right? And so there's a business opportunity for somebody to target parents of college students to ship the supplies there at the beginning of school, and when they're coming home for summer, to ship those products back. And we've provided, open source orchestration of somebody being able to, put in a to address, a from address, choose their options, address validation, get a label, and send that, right? Cool. And that's available out on our GitHub as one example of things we're doing. We haven't extended that further, to your point about how do we extend beyond that. If I was to talk to our head of developer experience, he probably has more thoughts on opportunities to do that. But
yeah, that's super interesting. Well, I mean, you guys have something out there that's more than we have. It's just something that we've been brought up recently with us that we're thinking about, like, how do we get more out there as we move into more of a developer community? We redid our API just recently, and we're pushing more into this API first, microservices approach, and open source came up. So, really cool to see what you guys are already kind of doing there. But it seems like there's a ton of value in getting in front of developers by doing that, right? It's been proven.
My recommendation there, if you haven't already, is to put somebody on your team that is dedicated to being a developer evangelist, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That sitting in the shoes of what a developer would be looking for, right? That can speak to the developer community, that really understands the developer psyche. Because what happens is that in general, developers in general would say, hey, I'm going to build this. I'm a developer, so I know what I'm going to build, right? Mm-hmm. But in general, that's not what they're building for, right? Like I said before, it's, well, yeah, I'm going to build this elegant looking API. And if you turn around and ask them, well, when's the last time you used a native API from scratch? They would say, well, only if I was forced to did I do that, right? Again, going out and looking at, well, what are the components and other things that you need to do? And that's where the developer evangelist can actually sort of question your own developers on whether or not what they're building is actually the best solution for adopting new developers.
Interesting. Very cool. Awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's some great insight. We haven't had a conversation like this in a while. ShipEngine, we integrate with you guys and you guys are a great provider. Thank you so much, Jim, for like all the context and content. Sounds like you guys are doing a lot of really cool stuff and hopefully we can ride that wave with you kind of on the API first. Quick, before we jump off, give us a quick little, ShipEngine plug. Let everybody know why someone would want to take a look at you guys or the Octane portfolio.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So we offer a very low cost effective API first multi-carrier solution with over 80 different carriers to provide the best type of capabilities. So you can check us out at shipengine.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Jim. Thanks for jumping on. Travis, thanks as always. Obviously, if you have any questions for us, we're all on LinkedIn. Head to shipengine.com or come over to flexpoint.com as well. Be sure to check us out. We've got our podcast going up on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We'll be up on YouTube as well. And so make sure to subscribe to all the different episodes that we got coming out. Jim, thanks again for jumping on. I appreciate it, and everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.